In the late 1990s, horror was booming. Audiences filled theaters for films like Scream, I Know What You Did Last Summer, and other slasher hits. The formula was simple: good-looking teens, a masked killer, and a soundtrack full of ironic angst. But in 2000, a group of daring filmmakers decided to flip the formula upside down. Instead of another serious slasher, they asked, what if the characters didn't run from the killer, but straight into the joke? That question gave birth to Scary Movie, a wild, fearless parody that didn't just poke fun at horror cliches, it detonated them. Behind the screams, laughs, and outrageous gags are stories of risk, chaos, and pure creative rebellion. Here are 20 jaw-dropping facts you've probably never heard. Let's saddle up.
Number 1.
By the late 1990s, Hollywood had perfected the slasher formula. One part attractive teenagers, one part masked killer, one part ironic music track. It was a printing press for box office money. But to Sean Wayans, the formula didn't inspire fear. It made him laugh. Think about it. In every horror movie, a character hears a strange noise, and instead of running away, they walk toward it. To Sean and his brothers, it wasn't scary. It was absurd. So instead of making another straight horror flick, they pitched a parody where the characters embraced the stupidity, running straight into the punchlines. The result? A comedy that didn't just mock the rules of horror, but twisted them into weapons of humor. Scary Movie was loud, crude, and completely unapologetic. Exactly what the moment needed.
2.
Here's something wild. Scary Movie almost never happened. At the exact same time, the Wayans brothers were developing their parody. Another writing team, Jason Friedberg and Aaron Seltzer, pitched a script called Scream If You Know What I Did Last Halloween. By sheer coincidence, both scripts landed on Dimension Films' desk within weeks of each other. A lawsuit seemed inevitable if the studio picked just one. The solution? Buy both. The Friedberg-Seltzer script was shelved, while the Wayans were told to run with their version. But the Writers Guild of America stepped in and ruled that all writers deserve credit. That's why so many names are attached to Scary Movie's screenplay, even though only one draft made it to the screen.
Number 3.
The hardest role to cast wasn't the killer. It wasn't the goofy boyfriend. It was Cindy Campbell, the final girl, who had to be innocent enough for audiences to root for, yet sharp enough to deliver comedy with perfect timing. Dozens of actresses auditioned, but most were either too glamorous or too goofy. The balance was impossible until a young, unknown actress named Anna Faris walked in. Here's the kicker. She wasn't even trying to break into Hollywood. She was about to move to London for a job in advertising. The audition was last minute. She almost skipped it. But from her first lines, everyone knew she was Cindy. Anna could make ridiculous dialogue feel sincere. She wasn't winning at the audience. She was living the role. She chose Hollywood over London. And when Scary Movie hit theaters, she went from total unknown to MTV Movie Awards nominee. All because she said yes to an audition she nearly missed.
Number 4.
One of the most iconic moments in Scary Movie is the slow-motion opening scene with Carmen Electra running from the masked killer. But believe it or not, she wasn't the studio's first choice. Executives wanted safer options like Jenny McCarthy or Alicia Silverstone. When Carmen's name came up, many thought she was too obvious, a walking tabloid headline that would distract from the joke. But director Keenan Ivory Wayans saw what others didn't. He realized Carmen's reputation was the perfect setup for parody. She could mock her own bombshell image without hesitation. Keenan fought the studio, delaying production until they caved. And when Carmen finally filmed the scene, she didn't just play the part, she owned it. That fearless self-parody set the tone for the entire movie. Overnight, she went from the wrong choice to the face of the franchise.
Number 5.
The character of Shorty Meeks, played by Marlon Wayans, wasn't just a random parody. He was based on one of Marlon's real-life friends, someone so infamous for his hazy lifestyle that you could smell the joke before it arrived. But here's the twist. When the movie came out, that friend was furious. He called Marlon threatening to sue for character defecation. Marlon corrected him. "You mean defamation?" His friend replied, "Nah, defecation. 'Cause you straight up dumped on me." The funniest part? He hadn't even seen Scary Movie. He thought Marlon was making fun of him in Requiem for a Dream instead. When he finally watched the parody, he laughed harder than anyone else.
Number 6.
For years, fans have sworn they spotted Jamie Lee Curtis in Scary Movie. In their minds, there was a scene where she repeated her terrified Halloween pose, wide-eyed, frozen in fear, mocking her own horror legacy. But here's the truth. That scene never existed. No cameo was ever filmed. So why do so many people believe it? It's what some call a phantom memory. A joke so perfect it feels real. Horror fans convinced themselves that the ultimate final girl had to show up in a parody. Over time, the rumor spread like wildfire until it became folklore. Sometimes the best gags aren't even in the movie. They live in the audience's imagination.
Number 7.
One of Cindy's wildest moments comes when she's blasted onto the ceiling in an over-the-top gag. On paper, it looked funny. But when Anna Faris arrived on set, she hesitated. The joke felt extreme, even for a movie built on extremes. Director Keenan Ivory Wayans didn't force it. Instead, he made a deal with her. They'd film it, show it to a test audience, and if the crowd hated it, they'd cut it. Anna gave it everything she had, and when the test screening came, the room erupted. Not chuckles, but full-on tears-in-your-eyes laughter. By the time the credits rolled, Keenan leaned over and said, "Yeah, that one's staying." It's a reminder of how risky comedy can be. What feels too much on set might just be the moment audiences remember forever.
Number 8.
Ask fans what their favorite Scary Movie moment is, and most will say one word, "What's up?" But here's the kicker. That scene wasn't even part of the original shoot. Months after filming wrapped, Keenan Ivory Wayans noticed how the Budweiser "What's Up" commercial had taken over pop culture. He knew the parody couldn't ignore it, so he called the cast back, shot the scene quickly, and slipped it into the final cut. The result? A gag that didn't just parody a commercial. It became a cultural time capsule. For many viewers, Scary Movie and What's Up are forever linked.
Number 9.
Before Regina Hall made Brenda Meeks one of the most quotable characters in comedy history, the role belonged to someone else, Aaliyah. She liked the script, but when she realized some jokes poked fun at fellow singer Brandy, she gracefully stepped aside. Out of respect for her friend, she turned it down. That's when Regina stepped in. She auditioned not once, not twice, but 4 times. Each time, she pushed harder, funnier, and more fearless. Still, even when she was close to winning the role, a producer pulled her aside with a warning. "Don't take this part. It could hurt your career." Regina didn't listen. She trusted her instincts, and the rest is history. Brenda became one of the most outrageous, unforgettable characters in the series, the kind of role people still quote decades later.
Number 10.
The Scary Movie script was outrageous on its own, but Keenan Ivory Wayans believed the funniest gold came when actors were free to improvise. His method was simple. Film one take exactly as written, then throw the script away and let chaos reign. Actors like Lachlan Monroe and Shannon Elizabeth loved it, knowing Keenan only kept the funniest takes. Sometimes he laughed so hard behind the camera that the crew had to pause filming. What made it into the movie wasn't just scripted comedy. It was raw, unpredictable energy born on the spot. That's why Scary Movie feels so alive. You're not just watching a parody. You're watching a cast daring each other to go further, knowing the funniest moments would survive the edit.
Number 11.
When the Wayans brothers finished their first cut of Scary Movie, they sent it off to the MPAA expecting an R. What they got instead was the dreaded scarlet letter of Hollywood, NC-17. Now, here's the twist. It wasn't because of gore, and it wasn't because of language. The MPAA flagged it because the jokes didn't just toe the line. They danced over it and waved back at the censors. The board sends back a laundry list of absolutely not moments. Whole gags had to be trimmed, some cut entirely. The Wayans brothers fought like lawyers in a courtroom, bargaining over seconds of footage as if every frame was a hostage negotiation. When the dust settled, they got their R. And here's the kicker. The outrageous energy still survived. The laughs hit just as hard, but the movie was finally safe to unleash on theaters. For the Wayans, that was victory.
Number 12.
The title Scary Movie feels perfect, right? Simple, direct, memorable. But here's the secret. It wasn't new. When Wes Craven was developing Scream, its working title was, you guessed it, Scary Movie. It was an inside joke among the crew, a wink at the cliches they were about to rip apart. The Wayans brothers knew that story. So, when it came time to name their own parody, they didn't just borrow the title, they stole it with purpose. It was a sly dare, as if saying to Hollywood, "You thought you were self-aware? Watch this." That one decision gave their parody a stamp of authenticity. Fans who knew the history got the joke, while casual audiences just thought it was the perfect name.
Number 13.
Scary Movie didn't just parody Scream or I Know What You Did Last Summer. The Wayans brothers raided the entire 1990s pop culture vault and dumped everything into a blender. One minute you're dodging bullets in a slow-motion Matrix spoof. The next, you're inside the shaky camera terror of the Blair Witch Project. Then suddenly, you're watching Doofy limp away in a shot-for-shot nod to The Usual Suspects. Nothing was safe, not even outside horror. The movie stitched together horror classics, blockbuster hits, and cult favorites into one chaotic ride. That's why watching Scary Movie feels like reliving an entire decade of pop culture in 90 minutes. It wasn't just parody. It was a scrapbook of the late 90s, stapled together with pure comedic chaos.
Number 14.
Film critic Roger Ebert was known for being tough on comedies. If a joke didn't land, he wouldn't sugarcoat it. So when Scary Movie hit theaters, many expected him to roll his eyes. Instead, he shocked everyone. He gave it 3 out of 4 stars. Now he admitted it wasn't Airplane, the gold standard of parody. But he also praised it for being sharper and funnier than most spoofs of the time. He even said it wasn't weighed down like some of Leslie Nielsen's weaker projects. The irony? Nielsen himself would join the franchise in Scary Movie 3. And when Ebert reviewed that sequel, he only gave it 2 stars. Turns out, even parody royalty couldn't top the Wayans brothers' original chaos.
Number 15.
Here's the wildest part. When Scary Movie went into production, no one at the studio thought they were making history. It wasn't some $100 million blockbuster with A-list stars. It was a lean, fast shoot. A summer comedy that executives assumed would come and go in a few weeks. But when it hit theaters, something unexpected happened. Word of mouth spread like wildfire. People didn't just laugh. They dragged their friends back for repeat viewings. Screenings turned into laugh marathons, with audiences quoting lines before the credits were even done. The movie held strong at the box office for months, outlasting some of the very films it was mocking. By the time it left theaters, it had become one of the most profitable comedies of its era. The scrappy underdog didn't just survive, it dominated. And in doing so, it proved that parody wasn't just a side act. Done right, it could be a main event.
Number 16.
When you watch Scary Movie, you're not just watching a cast of comedians, you're watching a family project. The Wayans brothers didn't just star in the film. They wrote it, produced it, directed it, and even pulled in other family members for small roles and behind-the-scenes help. That's the secret sauce. The jokes weren't just written in a conference room. They were born out of years of siblings daring each other to go further, funnier, and more outrageous. The result? A movie that feels like comedy with DNA. It's raw, personal, and powered by the kind of chemistry you only get when your co-star has been making you laugh since childhood.
Number 17.
The Ghostface mask is one of the most recognizable images in horror history. But when it came time to parody it, there was a problem. Dimension Films didn't technically own the design, so the Wayans had to get creative. For some scenes, they used the original style mask, but for others, they modified it, stretching, warping, and even making a stoned version that became its own running gag. That decision wasn't just practical, it was genius. By exaggerating the mask's features, they turned a symbol of fear into a symbol of ridiculousness. And for many fans, the parody mask is now just as iconic as the original.
Number 18.
What made the performances in Scary Movie so strong wasn't just the writing, it was the cast's willingness to go all in. Take Regina Hall as Brenda. She didn't just read her lines, she attacked them, making choices so wild that the crew often broke character behind the camera. Or Anna Faris, who fully committed to gags that most seasoned actresses would have been embarrassed to attempt. The Wayans brothers knew that parody only works when the actors don't flinch, and their cast didn't just avoid flinching, they dove headfirst into the chaos. That fearless energy is why the movie still feels alive 2 decades later.
Number 19.
Here's something shocking. The Wayans brothers only ever planned for one Scary Movie. They saw it as a one-off parody, a chaotic joke dropped into the middle of Hollywood's horror obsession. But when the box office receipts rolled in, the studio had other plans. Scary Movie became the launch pad for a 5-film franchise, each one mocking the latest pop culture wave. Still, the original remains unique. It wasn't just a sequel machine. It was lightning in a bottle, a moment when parody, timing, and pop culture all collided perfectly.
Number 20.
2 decades later, Scary Movie still holds a strange power. For some, it's a nostalgic time capsule of the early 2000s. For others, it's a comedy classic that pushed the boundaries of parody to a new level. But perhaps its greatest legacy is this: it proved that parody wasn't dead. In fact, in the right hands, it could dominate the box office and leave a cultural footprint larger than the films it mocked. Scary Movie wasn't just a joke, it was a revolution in a clown mask.
Bonus.
Every movie has its forbidden scene, the one that makes executives nervous, the one that sparks endless debates in private meetings, the one that almost never sees the light of day. For Scary Movie, that scene was a gag so outrageous that it divided everyone involved in the production. On set, the Wayans brothers and the cast howled with laughter. To them, it was the kind of joke that would define the film. Fearless, risky, and unforgettable. But when the studio saw the early cut, the mood shifted. Executives leaned forward in their chairs. Some smiled awkwardly, others frowned. And then came the dreaded words, "This has to go." They weren't joking. The execs thought the gag was too far, even for a movie built entirely on crossing the line. They worried about critics tearing it apart. They worried about audience complaints. They worried it would overshadow everything else in the movie. The Wayans brothers disagreed. To them, this wasn't just another joke. It was the heart of Scary Movie's DNA. From day one, their mission was clear: make a parody that didn't hold back, that went where no mainstream comedy dared to go. Cutting that scene, they argued, would be like pulling the teeth out of a shark. What followed was a battle behind the scenes that lasted for weeks. Meetings stretched on for hours. Notes were passed back and forth. Editors were asked to prepare 2 separate versions of the movie, one with the joke intact and one without it. Then came the tiebreaker, a test screening. The audience filed in, popcorn in hand, with no idea they were about to decide the fate of one of the film's most infamous moments. The movie played. Laughter echoed through the theater, and when that controversial gag finally hit the screen, the crowd erupted. Not polite chuckles, not awkward silence. We're talking full-throated, uncontrollable laughter, the kind of reaction you cannot fake. That was the proof the Wayans needed. The joke worked, the people loved it, and more importantly, it wasn't just funny, it was memorable. So the studio slowed down. The gag remained. And when Scary Movie hit theaters worldwide, that very moment became one of the most talked about, most quoted, and most shocking highlights of the entire film. Looking back, it's hard to imagine Scary Movie without it. That one scene represents everything the film stood for: boldness, risk, and the refusal to play it safe. It taught us something important about comedy. Sometimes the jokes that make people the most uncomfortable are the ones they'll be laughing about 20 years later. And here's the kicker: that scene, the one executives nearly buried, is now considered a classic of parody cinema. Fans remember it, they quote it, they share it online. It's not just a gag anymore, it's part of Scary Movie's legacy. So the next time you laugh at one of those outrageous moments, remember, you almost never got to see it. Comedy history was this close to being rewritten. And that's it. 20 weird and wonderful facts about Scary Movie, plus the bonus story of the joke that almost never made it. This wasn't just a parody. It was a revolution in comedy. A movie that took risks, fought battles behind the scenes, and proved that sometimes the funniest laughs come from the gags that almost didn't happen. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the madness behind Scary Movie, make sure to smash that like button, hit subscribe, and ring the bell so you never miss another breakdown of Hollywood's most shocking, hilarious, and unbelievable behind-the-scenes stories. Because trust me, the next video will be just as outrageous.